Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Nanda Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. All right, so let's get started here. Got it. And are we broadcasting or not? That's always the question. Let's see here. Where does it take us? Yes. Okay. Good. So we will get started after these prayers to the special master. Om Jnanatimarandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padkamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagara Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagara Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Ye Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Welcome dear devotees, Sukumaladi Mataji, Chitra Mataji, Varshana Mataji and Meera Mataji, and all those who are watching us here on Facebook. So we are going to continue our reading from the Bhagavad-gita. And what verse is it today for us?
38.
38, right. For 500 points to Sukumaladi Mataji were pressing the buzzer first. So let's bring up 3.38 and we will get going. So coming up, verse number 338 in a screen in front of you shortly. And let me start sharing my screen here with you. This, here we go. And if someone can confirm, they can read it. And we are missing our Suttapa Mataji. She hasn't joined us today. Okay.
We can see.
You can see that? Okay.
Oh,
Thank
no.
you.
I can't see.
You
I'm
can't.
having some problem. It's okay. I have my book in front of
You have a book in front of you. Okay, that's good. Okay. Dhumena vriyate vahnir yatha darsho malena cha yathol bena vrito garbhas tatha tene damavritam. Dhumena vriyate vahnir yatha darsho malena cha yathol bena vrito garbhas tatha tene damavritam. Dhumena vriyate vahnir Yatha darsho malena cha yathol bena vrito garbhas tatha tene damavritam. So now let's look at the word meanings by Srila Prabhupada. So here it says dhumena. Dhumena means by smoke, right? Dhumena, by smoke. Avriyate is covered, coming from the word avrana, right? So avriyate is covered. And then vahni. Vahni means fire. So Vahani is another Sanskrit word for fire. Yatha, just as. Adarshaha. Adarshaha means the mirror or darpan, as we say in Hindi. Malena. Malena means dirt or dust. Okay, and then let's go here and see. Ja is also yatha, just as. Ulbena, by the womb. Avritaha is covered. Garbhaha, embryo. Tatha, so. Tena, by that lust. Idam, this. Avritam is covered. Okay. So let's try to get familiar with the Sanskrit in this verse. So what is a mirror called in Sanskrit?
Adarshaha.
Adarshaha. Very nice. Okay. And what is lust called?
Tena.
That was a
By
trick
that
question.
lust.
Yeah. So by that lust, right? So tena doesn't, the word tena doesn't mean lust. He's referring to, right? By that, by that, right? And then what is the meaning of idam?
This.
This.
Right? So he's saying by that, this is covered, right? So what is that and what is this, right? So this means there has been some conversation going on before with Krishna and Arjuna, right? So let's go back and see our conversation.
Lust is kama, right?
Yes, lust is kama, right? Very right. And when lust is not fulfilled, then what happens?
Anger.
Anger, right?
Krodha,
Krodha.
yes, very nice, right? So Arjun said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly as if engaged by force? And then last week, Krishna said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of the contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world, right? So he has said that lust is what causes you. So tena, that tena he's discussing in today's verse is referring to lust, right? That lust. And so here in the previous verse, we had talked about that how is lust born? Why is lust born? How is lust born? It is born when the soul comes in contact with something. And what is that something? That when the soul comes in contact with the material mode of passion. So from rajas, lust is born from rajas, right? And then what happens that it is, what does it do to you? It is all devouring. And which means never satisfied. Keep on giving things to the lust, it will keep on taking whatever you're giving it. And then what's the relationship of that it has with you? It's your sinful enemy, right? So, and then what will the result of it later on? If it's not fulfilled, then it will get transformed into wrath. Okay? So here he was saying, but what is one impelled to sinful acts? That is, what is the soul impelled to sinful acts, right? So as if by under some force. And so Krishna was talking here in this verse that, right, by that lastena, and idam is this. This means this soul that we are talking about, right? So by this soul, something happens. Okay. Then tell me that what is the Sanskrit for covered?
Avritam.
Avritam. Avritam, right? Okay. And then what is smoke?
Dhumena.
Dhumena, right? Dhumena. By smoke or dhuma. All right. And then what is dust?
Malena.
Malena, right? Mal and amal, dirty and clean, right? So for Srimad Bhagavatam, they say it is amalam. It's a shastra which doesn't have any dirt in it. And dirt is usually associated with with the material nature. So material nature is dusty, small, right? Okay, and then what is embryo called?
Garbha.
Garbha, right? And where does the garbha live?
The womb.
Now,
Yeah.
talk to me in Sanskrit, please.
Ulbena.
Ulbena. Right? So
Ulbena.
Garbha lives in Ulbena. Ulbena
Yeah.
sounds like a country, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is Garbha lives in? Okay, Garbha, right? So Garbha is the embryo. So now let us look at this and see what is Prabhupada telling us here. So as fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust. Okay, so here we are talking about idam, right here, idam. Tena, by that. Idam, this. So what is that tena and what is by that? Here Prabhupada is saying that the living entity. So idam is referring to living entity. This what we are talking about, and it is covered by different degrees of lust. Right? So here's the interesting thing about how Krishna is talking to Arjuna, and he's giving 3 ways in which the living entity is covered by lust, right? And what were the examples that he gives here?
I
In the
am covered
translation,
by
Smoke.
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 fire is covered by smoke. Okay,
Smoke.
Mirror
Mhm.
is covered by dust.
Mirror is covered by
mirror is
dust.
covered by dust.
An embryo is covered by the womb.
Embryo is covered by the womb. And what was the Sanskrit for womb?
Ulbena.
Ulbena.
No. And what was the Sanskrit for embryo?
Avrita.
Garbha. Garbha.
Garbha.
Garbha. Yeah.
Garbha, right? And what does the ulbena do to the garbha?
It
Covers.
covers. Avrita.
Avritam, right? Yeah. Okay. So he's giving us examples. Now, here's the interesting thing, and that is why Krishna is talking to Arjuna and in the battlefield of Mahabharata, and he has given these examples. Fire is covered by smoke, mirror is covered by dust, embryo is covered by the womb. 3 examples, right? Yeah, I can understand covering, right? Or I'm covered by a jacket, like that, right? But we have to understand and go deeper into what exactly did Krishna mean. It seems like he just gave 1, 2, 3 examples, fine. No, what is the difference? Why is Krishna giving us these examples, right? Of how the living entity or the soul gets covered by the desires which it has got, right? So we have to understand, and that is why all the Bhagavad-gita was spoken for 45 minutes. During 45 minutes he spoke, but he was speaking to somebody who has the intelligence of Arjuna, right? But for us, we need more example, we need more elaboration, we need people to sit down with us and explain things to us, right? And that is why, you know, although the verse itself gets covered in a minute, it takes people and acharyas, you have to listen to people, various people sit, explain and talk about this to understand, right? What exactly is Krishna meaning? Because on the face of it, it looked like fine. He gave us 3 examples. Very good. Yeah, I know fire is covered by smoke, right? So let's see what Srila Prabhupada has to say. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There are 3 degrees of covering, right? So here, there was no mention of degrees here, right? Was there any mention of degrees? No. He just gave 3 examples, right? So here, that's why you require the acharyas to explain things to us and keep listening to. So there are 3 degrees of covering of the living entity by which his pure consciousness is obscured. This covering is but lust under different manifestations like smoke in the fire, dust on the mirror, and the womb about the embryo. When lust is compared to smoke, it is understood that the fire of the living spark can be a little perceived. In other words, when the living entity exhibits his Krishna consciousness slightly, he may be likened to the fire covered by smoke. Although fire is necessary where there is smoke, there is no overt manifestation of the fire in the early stage. This stage is like the beginning of Krishna consciousness. The dust on the mirror refers to a cleansing process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods. The best process is to chant the holy names of the Lord. The embryo covered by the womb is an analogy illustrating a helpless position, for the child in the womb is so helpless that he cannot even move. This stage of living condition can be compared to that of the trees. The trees are also living entities, but they have been put in such a condition of life by such great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. The covered mirror is compared to the birds and beasts, and the smoke-covered fire is compared to the human being. In the form of human being, the living entity may revive a little Krishna consciousness, and if he makes further development, the fire of spiritual life can be kindled in the human form of life by careful handling of the smoke in the fire. Fire can be made to blaze. Therefore, the human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. In the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy lust by cultivation of Krishna consciousness under able guidance. Om Tat Sat. Okay, so now we see how Prabhupada, from the three examples that Krishna gave, Prabhupada is expanding that and giving us, more insight into how the soul gets covered by desires. So how did Prabhupada explain? What did he mean when fire is covered by smoke?
That the covering is easy to remove. I mean, it's not like so dense that we cannot even think of coming out of it. We have it's light, and we can come out of it with some practice or with some guidance. And
Very
that's
good.
why human entities, human being is the example of that.
Of that, right. And okay, good. And anybody wants to tell us something else from the
By
purport?
chanting the holy name of the Lord, the smoke, which is the mirror, which is covered with the dust, can be removed easily.
Okay.
So this is only the holy name which can help us.
Very good. What else did we learn? There were three, right? That Krishna gave three examples, right? And Prabhupada was elaborating on that.
And you see, the embryo is in the womb, is so helpless. And Srila Prabhupada said that the trees are also in the same condition. They are so helpless. And the basic thing he tells is that it is the only human form of life where we can come out of this material bondage and get out of this ocean, material ocean.
Okay, good. And one more example?
Yeah. Fire.
One more thing that he said, fire.
Mirror is covered by the dust.
Mirror is covered by the dust, right? And okay, anything more Prabhupada said there?
He's comparing that with birds and animals, that situation.
Birds and animals situation, right? Yeah. Very right. And what is embryo called in Sanskrit?
Garbha.
And what is womb called in Sanskrit?
Ulbena.
Ulvena, all right. And what was mirror?
Adarshaha.
Adarshaha, exactly right. And then what was dust?
Mal. So
Malay.
Malay.
Yeah, Mal is mine. Yeah, I'll give it to you for that. Okay, very nice. And what did it mean to cover something?
Avritaha.
Avritaha. Right. Okay. Yeah. So if we go to if you remember in the introduction to Sri Ishopanishad, Prabhupada, where he's talking about various ways of where you can gather knowledge, right? So you can gather knowledge about something by, what are the ways in which you can gather knowledge about something?
Reading, hearing.
Okay. That is through your
contact. Coming in contact with the guru who has already experienced, so he can give us the right knowledge.
Okay, right. So all these we are talking about that you get knowledge in the direct way, right? By direct perception. right? You perceive through your ears by your guru telling you something, or you see something, or you read something, you're using your eyes, right? So if I want to know, like, whether Prashana Mataji is here or not, I can look and see, well, yeah, she's here on Zoom, I can see her, right? Now, so that is pratyaksha. But then another way of also gaining some knowledge is through anuman. You deduce certain things, right? For example, if you're walking towards a hill and you see some smoke over there, then your deduction will be that there is a fire over there, right? So wherever there is smoke, it means that there is some fire, because smoke cannot happen without fire, right? So that is good news, that if there is smoke, there is some fire. It's just that it is hidden there. You cannot see that fire, okay? And Prabhupada said that all that you have to do is to fan it. Fan the fire through, as you all mentioned, doing Krishna Katha, chanting the holy names of the Lord, and so on and so forth, right? You have noticed sometimes that, I don't know, some of you might have seen women cooking over firewood, right? And so they put the pot and they put the wood over there, they light it, and then in the beginning, what is there?
They do the fanning.
Yeah. So, and how do they do the fanning? Either they do the fanning there, or for those of you who are from older times, you might know that there used to be a little pipe, right? Pukuni, they used to call it, and they go in it and they blow into the fire. And then from the smoke, suddenly the fire starts to be visible, right? But Prabhupada is saying that it is still there, fire is there. And here is the interesting thing in which we look at, in which Shastras and our Sankhya Yoga look at things, right? I mean, we never gave it so much thought. For us, it was that there is wood, and you take some, you take a matchstick, and then you light the matchstick and you touch it to the wood, and the wood will catch fire, right? Or you put some ghee on the wood and it will catch fire, right? That's how yagyas are done. So somehow we know, we have seen this all the time, but we never kind of never question the fact that, okay, from where did the fire come in the first place? Where did the fire come from? I had wood, I had matches, no, but the fire didn't walk into the room from outside, right? But you see the fire in the yagya pit, right? It was not that somebody, you see Mr. Agni coming in and then jumping into your yagya pit when the yagya is happening. This means the fire must have been in those three things, right? Either in the ghee or in the firewood or in the matchstick, right? So, and it is, that is why we say, Bhumo apo analo vayu kham mano buddhire vacha ahankara ityame bhinna prakriti ashtada. He says, these are my 8 separated energies, right? Earth, water, fire, ether, and then things are made up of that. So even though you see a log of wood, right, which is made up, as you see, with earth, that's why you see a lot of, features, gross features there, right, and heavy. But there is fire also inside the wood. Similarly, there's fire inside phosphor, which is used for your matchsticks and so on and so forth. The ghee also will have some fire element inside it, right? And it's just that it gets manifested by various, you raise the temperature and it will get manifested, so on and so forth. So fire is there, right? So fire is inherently there. And then when you do something, and first the smoke will start, but then, because fire is inherently there, it will come out. All that is required is a little fan the spark, like, to fan it a little bit, as a little spark, right? And if you don't fan it, then a spark left alone by itself, what happens to the spark?
It dies. It dies.
Right? Dies, or it gets extinguished, right? Like that. So here Prabhupada Krishna is giving him an explanation that there is fire, right? There is fire, and then there is smoke. And so fire is there, but in the beginning, there is a lot of smoke. So the fire is covered by the smoke. So here's one example that he gave, right? And Prabhupada said it is equivalent to the human beings. Okay, so we'll come back and talk more about this. But let's go and look at the second one, right? Second example was, give me Sanskrit words. What is covered by what?
The Adarshaha is covered by Mal.
Malena.
Malena, right? Yeah, Malena, by Mal, right? So Adarsh or Adarsha or mirror is covered by the dust. Okay. So there has got to be some difference here between fire covered by smoke and mirror covered by dust, right? So when there is mirror covered by dust, right, how will you clean the mirror?
With a cloth.
With a duster.
With a duster, with a cloth, right? Maybe you'll first dust it off and then you'll wet the cloth and then come back and clean the mirror, then bring a dry cloth and then clean and polish it again, right? So this is how you're going to clean the mirror, and ultimately, so there it requires some cleansing from outside, and then it'll be cleansed, right? Okay. So now there has to be a difference between the two the two things that are mentioned here, right? So let's go a little bit deeper now into this. So here the verse is saying that as fire is covered by smoke, and then we also found the remedy for that you put in fan the spark, give it some more air, fan it through Krishna Kirtan, transcendental things, and then you will see the fire, right? So here's the interesting thing. Smoke is there, it means that there is an existence of fire. That is for sure. If you see dust on a flat surface, it doesn't necessarily mean that there is a mirror behind it.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
But if you see smoke, then there is definite thing that there is fire there. Right? And that is Anuman. That is how you deduce, right? And you get the knowledge that, oh, I'm seeing smoke, so the knowledge is there that there is fire also over there. Okay? Now, here's the thing. So fire, if you fan it, then the fire will blaze. Right? That's the thing that Prabhupada said. Now, what do I do? What can I do to extinguish that blaze? If there's a blaze in your house, what do you do to extinguish it? What would you do?
Put water.
Put water. Right? So if you have to extinguish the blaze, you have to put water in it. So smoke. So, and what are the characteristics of fire?
Heat and light.
Dharma. What is the dharma of fire? Heat and light, right? So it's supposed to give heat and light, right? Now, when the fire is covered by smoke, right? Can you feel the heat? When there is smoke,
Yes.
Yeah.
you can feel it, right?
Yes.
Light, maybe not, depending on how much is it completely all smoke, or if there's little light. So sometimes, while you're cooking on firewood, there is light also, and there's smoke also. A lot of it is coming, but every now and then you'll see a little thing there, right? So the smoke is there. However, whatever is the dharma or whatever is the characteristic of the fire, this smoke is not able to stop it. If there is smoke, you won't say that, oh, I can't feel the heat of the fire because there is smoke. You can still feel the heat of the fire. You want to put your hand inside it, you'll take it out very quickly, right? Because it is hot. So fire is not able to, it can cover, but it cannot stop, and it cannot destroy. Water, on the other hand, can destroy the purpose of fire, can extinguish fire. You put water, it's gone, right, on fire. But smoke cannot. You cannot take, a smoke and then blow smoke over a fire and expect the fire to be extinguished because I'm putting smoke in it. No. Right? So this is something very important to note, that smoke will not extinguish the fire. The fire is there. Okay. Now let's go and look at the mirror. Right? Now, when you go to the mirror, what happens? What does the mirror do?
You can see your reflection.
It reflects.
And it is not clear. And it is not clear because of the dust.
Right. So here we are talking about that if the mirror is covered completely with dust, can you see yourself?
No.
No, right? So in this case, the dust can cover the mirror to such a deep extent that mirror is not able to perform the dharma it's supposed to perform.
Right.
You see the difference between the two? In the first way, fire, all that it needs a little fanning and it'll do its dharma, both the parts of it, light and heat. Even when the smoke was there, it was able to give off heat. still, right? So it's not completely prevented from doing what it's supposed to do. But if a mirror is taken and if you put Malena on top of the Adarsha, then its dharma is stopped completely, right? And is there a verse that you remember about, cleaning it? Any verse that you remember from?
And then I remember Cheto Darpana Marjanam.
Very good. I was waiting for that. Very good, right? So let's see if I can bring it up and find it somewhere. KK songs maybe. And let's look at that. It's a beautiful verse. And we should talk about that. So I'm sharing my screen. Please let me know if you can say Cheto Darpana Marjana.
Yeah.
Okay. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhavamaha Davagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kerava Chandrika Vitaranam Vedyavadhu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnam Rita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. And what does that meaning say here? It says that glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is a life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the knowledge of ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious, right? So here the example of fire is slightly different given here. They are talking about extinguishing the fire of conditional life, and which is basically fanning the fire of spiritual life, right? So this covering actually is what it is covering. It is covering the soul, and which particular part that this lust cover. So it covers the spiritual knowledge that we have. So some in the form of a human body, some, yes, there is smoke depending on where you are, rajas, tamas, like that. But, the fire is there. So the knowledge there is at the level of a fire, and all it needs a little bit of a fanning, and then it'll get cleared, right? However, when it comes to the other part where they're talking about a mirror is covered by the dust, here we are talking about the mirror is completely covered by the dust, right? So when it is completely covered by the dust, here the example that Prabhupada is giving is he's equating that to the animal species. Animal species, they are so much covered, the lust is so much over there that your focus is completely on satisfying that lusty desire. And again, the word lust, like I explained earlier, is not to be, understood as just with the sexual nuances. Lust here means desire. Okay, any desire that we're talking about is termed here as lust. Okay? So here, when we are talking about mirror being covered by the dust, so the mirror is prevented from doing whatever they are supposed to do. So when you fall into, or when one falls, a living entity falls into the animal species of life, then it's not able to perform the dharma that it's supposed to perform, right? It won't be able to do what is supposed to do. And what is a living entity supposed to do? Engage in what is the dharma of the devotional service of the Lord. So they are not able to perform the devotional service of the Lord. And what is the reason? Intense desires. So this desire is there to eat meat or to do, whatever, run fast, look beautiful, dance, whatever, be carefree, don't want to do. So when these sort of desires are there, then this material world, right? This material world, they say, is situated on desire. Right? It is situated on desire. What does that mean? For example, if I were to say that, where is this laptop from where I'm broadcasting? Where is this laptop situated? It's situated on the table. And it's a table that is preventing the laptop from falling down. It is supporting it, right? So similarly, what is supporting this material world? Why is this material world getting created all the time, again and again, again and again, again and again, right? And the reason for that, what is supporting this material world? It is our desires, right? Because of our desires only of not to serve Krishna, but because of our desires to enjoy independent of Krishna, has this material world been created for us. Okay, here is it. I'll give you a suitable body to enjoy whatever your desires are, right? So when the enjoyment is so strong that, a human body will not satisfy it, then you are given the body. For example, if you eat a lot, right? When we were young, and if a child would sit and, when you like something, you start making noises, right? You start eating like that. And the parent would scold like, you are eating like a dog. Kutte ki tarah khana khaye. Human being bano, right? So, and then that was a fact. Because if you observe a dog eating, how much noise do they make? They don't eat silently, right? There's a lot of noise from the mouth that comes up. And have you seen a dog's tongue? Right? If I were to hang my tongue outside it, I can only go up to my chin here, like maybe 2 or 3 inches protruding. That's all. How long is a dog's tongue compared to ours? It's very long, isn't it? They are hanging. It's hanging like that, right? Why? Because you had such an intense desire to eat food. And who enjoys the food? Does the stomach enjoy the food? No. It's the tongue that enjoys the food, right? So the more the surface area of the tongue, the more will be your enjoyment. So the dog has been given a long tongue, so that all the food that goes is an intense enjoyment like that, right? So that is one of the reasons. They get a suitable body. And in that body, they are covered. They are covered to that extent. Their consciousness is covered by their desires to such an extent that they will not be able to perform devotional service. And when they will have their intelligence. Do they have desire? Do animals have desires? Do they have likes and dislikes? I know of like people, dog owners, they say like, my dog is angry with me. My dog is sulking. Like that. So they also exhibit behaviors, right? And there is a famous experiment that was performed, right? Palinov's experiment of the dog and the bell, right? And so he used to ring the bell and give the food, and the dog started salivating. And this happened all the time. And then after some time, he removed the food, and then he just rang the bell and the dog started salivating. So why? Because he has got enough intelligence to understand that, when he rings the bell, then food is going to come. They know that. And so if in a house, there are, husband and wife, and the wife gives the food to the dogs know from where the food is coming. They won't, when they're hungry, they won't go to the man. They will go to the lady, or vice versa, whatever it is, right? Or who takes them out for a walk. They know where to go and beg, right? Like that. And you see how when they train the animals, what are they giving all the time? Whenever they do a little trick, a little, a little something, a little treat. Yeah, they call it treat, a little treat, a little treat, a little treat. They keep on giving them that, right? So because they know, and their desires are fulfilled, and they'll do it again. Now they know my desire is to eat, and if I do this, then I will get this, right? So they're able to. Their instincts are there. They know how to do it, right? And they will engage in their instincts all the time, like that, right? Now, when we come to the third. Right? So in the first case, what was happened was that the covering was such that, it was preventing you from doing everything. Light was being prevented, but heat you could still give. In this one, the covering is like that, you cannot perform whatever you're supposed to perform, right? Rarely you'll be able to do like Gajendra, right? He did that. Sometimes you see dogs, etc. And when we go to Vrindavan, etc., they are on the parikrama and they follow, like that. Sometimes they'll even pay obeisances to the swamis, etc. So some of them still have got that, and that's especially a blessing for them, right? And then the third that they were talking about was that when an embryo is covered by a womb, right? So what happens in the womb?
Helpless situation.
Helpless situation is saying, helpless, cannot do anything, right? And it is so interesting that in the womb, you can't even stay your natural, you are not even in your natural state, right? How is a child in the womb? Where is the head?
Down.
Downwards.
Down below, and the feet are up,
Up.
right? And how is he there? There's a fetal position, that's called, right? He's not standing like that. In the womb, the fetus is not standing, right? It's not even standing upside down. It's curved, right? It takes the shape of the womb. Whatever womb is offered, that's all. You have to adjust to that shape. You are completely helpless. If the soul is put in the womb of a cow, it will get the body of a cow. If the soul is put in the womb of a dog, it cannot become a cow. It has to take a cow's body, right? And even if in the cow's body, whatever is its natural position, it won't even get that when inside the womb. So it's totally helpless. And that is equated as to the plants, to the plants and to the trees, right? So we have to be very, very careful of what we are doing, right? So let's take an example here from our Shastras, bringing up screen here. This is the story, and from Srimad Bhagavatam, but extracted into the Krishna book, the story of the cursing of Nalakuvara and Manigriv, and their deliverance by Krishna under the all-blissful desire of the great sage Narada is here described. The two great demigods, Nalakuvara and Manigriv, were sons of the treasurer of the demigods, Kuvera, who was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Kuvera's material opulences had no limit. As a rich man's sons often become addicted to wine and women, so these two sons of Kuvera were also addicted to wine and sex. Once these two demigods, desiring to enjoy, entered the garden of Lord Shiva in the province of Kailasha on the bank of the Mandakini Ganges, where they drank much and engaged in hearing the sweet singing of the beautiful women who accompanied them in the garden of the fragrant flowers. In an intoxicated condition, the two demigods entered the water of the Ganges, which was filled with lotus flowers, and there they began to enjoy the company of the young girls, exactly as a male elephant enjoys female elephants within the water. While they were thus enjoying themselves in the water, all of a sudden, Narada, the great sage, happened to pass that way. He could understand that the demigods Nalakuvara and Manigriv were too much intoxicated and could not even see that he was passing. The young girls, however, were not so much intoxicated as the demigods, and they at once became ashamed at being naked before the great sage Narada. They began to cover themselves with all haste. The two demigod sons of Kuvera were so much intoxicated that they could not appreciate the presence of the sage Narada and therefore did not cover their bodies. On seeing the two demigods so degraded by intoxication, Narada desired their welfare and therefore he exhibited his causeless mercy upon them by cursing them. Right? And do you know what was a curse?
They were made
They
into
became Arjuna trees.
Very good. They were made into the trees, right? So let's go back and look at this situation that we have over here, right? And all that we talk about in various verses of Bhagavad-gita and all these years that we have been talking about, right? And that is, you see, first and foremost, that Nalakuvara and Manigriv are the sons of whom?
Kuvera.
Kuvera, right? And Kuvera is who? What is his position? He's what?
Treasurer.
Treasure. And then by the grace of Shiva, what does he have a lot?
Material
Lot of money.
opulence.
Opulences are there, right? And then he has got two sons, Nalkubar and Manigriv. So obviously they are also demigods, right? Because whatever womb you are put into, you get that shape of that womb, right? From that womb. So they're born from a demigod, so they will get a demigod. So Nalkuvara and Manigriv were the sons of the treasurer of the demigods. Now you see, Prabhupada says very nicely here, as a rich man's sons often become addicted. So this is one of the risks of going into and becoming a demigod. And that is that you will not know how to handle the opulence. Too much of opulence, too many beautiful women around. And so they are there, right? And by whose grace did they get all this? Indirect, who is the person? Indirect cause of their all their opulence. These two boys are
Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva,
Lord
right?
Shiva,
Yeah, because of Lord Shiva, these two boys are very opulent, right? It's a grace coming from Shiva. So now, because of someone, you get something. Because of Shiva, you got all this opulence. So if there is some gratefulness there, right? So when there is some gratitude there, right? So first comes the gratitude. And then you return. You try to return it back or try to give further. Like if you think that Krishna has given me a lot of money, you will like to go donate to Krishna like that, right? But let's look at this condition over here, that they are there, sons of rich father, and okay, wine and women are there, but where are they enjoying? Where are they?
Ganges.
The water.
Yeah. And where is the Ganges?
In Kailash.
In Kailash, right? So you know that Ganges, as it starts from the Kailash, actually starts even from higher up, but it falls onto the Kailash, and then it continues to flow down to the various planetary systems till it comes to our place, right? Like that. So the Ganges is very pure at that level, in that realm where Shiva is, right? And it's such a pure place as Ganges. What are you doing? They are with women.
Mm.
Where is the gratitude? That I am in the place of the person who has made me so opulent, I should at least behave myself properly in that place. That thing is gone. Why? Lust has covered to that extent that they can't even get this. Right? So Lord Shiva, Kailash, and in the Kailash of all the places, Mandakini, Ganges. Okay. And the interesting thing is that, when Narada comes by, when the Narada comes by, then what do the women do?
They try to cover
themselves.
They try to cover themselves, right? So at least the women have got some understanding that I'm doing something wrong, right? But Nalkuvara and Manigriv, no. It's more like, what are you doing here? Narada, don't you see it's a private party going on? You are here, I'm going to stay nude in front of you. I don't care to cover myself. Why? Because I am rich and I'm opulent. I'm the son of Kuvera. So that is why Prabhupada always says that if you want to pursue devotional service, then these places are not good places at all. The best place is to be here on planet Earth, where you don't have so much opulences that they get to your head. I mean, here also opulence can get to the head, but not to this extent, right? So you see, then Narad Muni is saying that, your lust, and here the lust is everything. The desire was to enjoy women, so that was definitely there. But then the desire to be, that I am great and I should be respected by others. And who is this Narada? What is he doing? So all that had covered them to such an extent that they're helpless. They're helpless from their desire, from their own desires. At least the female had that sense still left in them to get up and put on their clothes. But they are so covered by their lusty desires that they didn't even do that. So they're almost like an embryo in a womb that cannot do anything. So Narada is saying, okay, if you're in that position, let me put you in that position. If you want to act so helpless, let's put you there, right? So when it comes to trees, well, the trees seem to be standing there, not doing much, which is a good punishment, like no more females around you. But do trees do other things? Do you think trees do any other things? Do they have some sort of a willpower, or do they make some, do they do anything, or
They
they don't?
give out oxygen.
They
Okay.
breathe, right?
Oxygen.
They give oxygen, yeah, that's right. And then
And they bear fruits, Mataji.
they bear fruits, yeah, okay.
They give us shade.
They give you shade, okay. All right. So all these are the good qualities of a tree, right? It is giving, it's tolerant, it gives shade and things like that. Does the tree take anything for itself?
Are they nutrients from the soil?
It takes nutrients from the soil. Very good. And how does it take the nutrients from the soil?
By the roots.
By the roots. Okay. So do the roots move? What happens underneath the surface of the
Yeah,
earth?
They grow.
they do
They
move.
grow.
They do
They
move.
go-
They grow, right? So what is the growing of a root? What exactly does it mean? A root is growing. A root actually keeps moving in search of food, right? So the plant also does that, right? Have you seen have you seen plants tilt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Because
What are they
they're
trying to
looking
get?
for sunlight.
They're looking for
Sunlight.
sunlight, right? I mean, here you can clearly see the trees are bent this much in the winters trying to get some sunlight because the sun has moved, right? So you see they are trying to get, they don't speak. That's a different thing. But inside they're doing all those things are still going on. But it's like, okay, or lazy people, right? You don't want to do anything, I'm going to make you, right? But here is the beauty of Narad Muni, right? So Narad Muni is able to say that, able to see that, they are demigods. Don't forget that. They were demigods and they came, they were born in the family of Kuvera, but all the lust, all the opulence got to it, right? And they lost it. They completely lost their devotional service. A sage comes in front of you, instead of offering obeisances, you're angry and you're not even covering yourself. I mean, it's the height of impudence that they're doing. So in order to punish them, then he makes them into two trees, right? But where did the trees grow? Where were they?
In the
In
in the
America?
compound of
Yashoda's
Nanda
And
Baba.
in Nand Maharaj's courtyard.
Courtyard, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to people like Narada, even their curses are such blessings in disguise. That they were there for, I think, 100 years or 50 years in demigod years, like that, and they were standing. And Narada is Trikaldarshi. He knows what's going to happen in the future. Nand Maharaj is going to be there, and then Krishna is going to come there. There will be that, Damodar Leela and all that, right? And then finally they get delivered. And at that time, when they see Krishna, then their devotional service rises to a higher level, right? Rises to a higher level so that they come, the fire, they reach the fire stage and the fire is fanned. And then they go back and they become devotees and pursue their lives there, right? So it's a very, very interesting thing to note that, how, sometimes people talk about describing other people like, oh, he's a dog. Why do you say he's a dog? Because he's behaving like a dog. So there are chances that they will get the body of a dog in the next birth, right? And when you are fallen into situations like this, right, where you're fallen so down that you're behaving like Nalkubara and Manigriv did, that you require a sage. You require a sage like Narad Muni. Sage like Narad Muni to get you out of that situation. And interesting, the Bhagavatam is full of stories of how Narad Muni goes and helps people, right? For example, and how powerful sound is. Also keep that in mind. And that is Cheto Darpana Marjana we're talking about, right? The sound vibrations will cleanse the mirror of the mind. Like that. So Prahlad Maharaj in his previous birth was in a relationship with a woman, and he used to go and meet her at some place in the night. And so one day they decided, okay, we'll go and meet there. And so he goes there in all anticipation of meeting the girlfriend. And so it's a structure. So he cleans that up with water, puts his nice water, cleans it all nicely in anticipation. She's going to come, we'll sit, we'll enjoy. And she doesn't turn up. And he's waiting and waiting and waiting for her. And whole night he waits and doesn't eat anything at all. And she doesn't come. And so the whole night passes like that. And it happened that that particular structure where he had decided to meet was Nrsimha-Dev's temple. And that day that he stayed there was Narsingham Chaturdashi. So without even knowing that this is Narsingham temple, he had washed the temple on Narsingham Chaturdashi. And without even knowing that it is Narsingham Chaturdashi, he had done the fasting on that. And that was, Narsingham-Dev Bhagwan was so merciful that, we know the rest of the story. That he was born, because of his lusty desires, he was born in the body of a demon, right? Kayadu. And Hiranyakashipu's wife. Right? So he's thrown into that species. But he's inside a womb. But then Narad Muni comes and tells the story. When Kayadu is living with Narad Muni in his ashram, taking shelter there, where Hiranyakashipu had gone off to pray. And the demigods had come and attacked and defeated the demons, and they were carrying away Kayadu, because when they knew that she's pregnant, then he said that they were going to kill her, because then the child will also die and the last demon will also be killed, something like that. But then Narad Muni comes and stops them and says, no, don't do it, don't kill him. A devotee is going to come out from there. And so he then brings Kayadu and says that you stay in my ashram. And so while she's living there, Narad Muni used to go and tell the stories and devotional service, Krishna Katha. And it didn't have an effect on Kayadu, but it had effect on Prahlad Maharaj. And so the very next, as soon as he's born, right, within 5 years, he sees Narsingham Dev, right? And as soon as he was born, when he starts going to school at 3 years old or whatever age that he started going there, he started preaching, right? So sometimes, you could be at one level in your life, but you don't know what you have done in your previous life, but that still carries over. So bad things also carry over and good things will also carry over. Sometimes you see how people will take a very long time to come to Krishna consciousness. You can go every year, year after year, tell them. And sometimes you see people come into the temple and bingo, the very first day they come to the temple, they take a Bhagavatam, they take a Bhagavad-gita. Next week they come here, they are in the kitchen, they are washing pots, right? And then next day they are in the gift shop and they want to buy devotional clothes, and they get a kanti mala and they are saying, when can I get a kanti mala? Can I get a kanti mala? And then can I get a japa mala? I want a bead bag. And they are there, and then fourth week they're out distributing books like that. For some, because that thing is already there in it, it was covered by some smoke, and it required just a little bit of fanning, and fanning can come from the circumstances around you, or it can come from somebody else, right? In the case of Narada Muni, he did not fan it directly for Manigriva and Nalkuvera, but he put them in a situation where it would get fanned, and their fanning happened because they see Krishna face to face, like that over there. So this lust that we have, and Arjuna had asked that, why am I forced to do sinful activities as if I'm impelled? And Krishna said that it is there because of your desires, and it happens because of your association with mode of passion, and it is your biggest enemy, right? And like I was saying last time, that in Kali, that difference between Satyuga, Kali Yuga, Dwapar, that in Satyuga, the demon, which is bad, and the suras, which are good, they are separated. They are in different planetary systems, 2 different planets. And in the next yuga, they're in 2 different countries, India and Sri Lanka, like that, right? And then in the next yuga, they are both in the same clan, right? Kauravas and Pandavas. And then, the good and bad and the fighting happens, within a family in Kali Yuga, father and mother, like that. Similarly, this condensation or this, there's a squeezing of the size happens. And you can see that in Satyuga, the high people are very tall and they live a very long life. Then in the next yuga, things shrink. The size also shrinks. The duration of life also shrinks. Their devotional service also shrinks, right? And in the next yuga, again shrinking. Next yuga, again things shrink. So these distances also shrink over a period of time. And Hanumat Peshu Swami Maharaj gives a very nice example. And he says that if you take an apple, and you mark two dots on two sides of the apple, right? So it's a nice, rich, juicy apple. And so one dot is here, one dot is there. And you go to a desert and you drop it there, right? And then you go there a year later. So the apple will still be there, hopefully, right? But it would have lost all its luster. It would have become even black, dark, whatever. And then it would have shrunk in size, right? So when things shrink in size, the distance between the two black dots that you had, it's also going to shrink in size. Right? So when we read in our scriptures that there were so many billions of cows, or everybody was there, living so many gopis, millions of gopis on the rasa dance. So many gopis were there. They were all dancing like, oh, but when I go to Vrindavan, it is such a small village, or a city or a town. And so how could so many cows live here? How could so many gopis live here? How could so many cowherd boys live here? It's such a small thing. So we have to also remember that things are shrinking. And science also tells us that, right? The earth is cooling down and shrinking. So things will shrink. And over a period of time, things shrink. And so the different personalities which are there, the rajas and the tamas and the goodness, sattvic, which are there in different people in different yugas, like brahmanas, full of goodness, kshatriyas, full of passion, like that. So now what happens is that they are all within one person, right? If we look back at the old yugas, then in one family there is Vibhishan, in one family there is Kumbhakarna, and in one family, same family, there is Ravana also, right? So if you were to look at the modes of material nature, what modes of material nature do they represent? So what is Ravana? What mode of material nature is he? Rajas.
Rajas.
Very correct, right? And Vibhishan?
Tamas.
Goodness.
The goodness. Yes. And Kumbhakarna?
Tamas.
Tamas, a mode of ignorance, right? So they are there in different people. But in Kali Yuga, what happens is they are all in us. In the morning, we are in the mode of goodness. During the day, we are in the mode of passion. And in the night, we tend to get into the mode of ignorance. That's why they say it's not a good idea to stay out in the night for a long time, because that modes are starting to act on us, right? So we will move from, being covered by smoke in the morning to being covered by dust on a mirror, to be covered as if we are in a womb, unable to, do anything. My natural shape has also been, messed up with. And I'm being unnatural to what my natural position is, and that is to do devotional service of the Lord, like that, right? So in the morning, you might do devotional service of the Lord. In the afternoon, we might forget to do devotional service to the Lord. And in the evening, we might do something completely opposite of devotional service, right? Same person can do that. And the only way to prevent ourselves from all this happening is to chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All right, so I'll stop over here. Any questions, any reflections, any thoughts that you'd like to share? We can take them for some time.
May I ask?
And good to see Spurti Mataji here today. Wow, very good. And Niral Mataji, Niral and Khyati Mataji. We had a beautiful first grain ceremony. And if you had to see a child in the mode of goodness, then you had to see little Keshwi. And she really enjoyed the sweet rice. Yeah, and ate it without any fuss.
And she didn't even cry one bit.
Didn't try even
Yeah.
once. Yes, but nice, and how she used to look at Vaisheshika
Yeah.
like that,
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much for the blessings. We are just thinking it's probably the presence of all the devotees around that she has that effect. And generally, when she listens to some, like even your lectures or whatever you're speaking or the songs we have, your song like we get the Panchak prayers and everything around also, right? She listens to it quiet, like just sits around, plays. Well, it's
And when she's fussy, the only thing that calm her down is chanting.
Yeah, because that's the vibration she has heard in the womb. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
very exciting to see it in the morning. It was
Yeah.
really, really exciting this morning to see her. It made me feel so happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was looking at His Grace Visheshika Guru Maharaj, that she knows him from last birth, it seems.
Isn't it? Yes. Yes. She was looking
Yeah.
like that, hey buddy. Yeah. 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 The way she was looking was there was some conversation going on there. I could also feel
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
That is all because of the spiritual blessings from Shraddha for all her prayers to bring this
No, no,
soul
no.
in our life.
That's between Keshvi and Vaisheshika Prabhu. I have nothing to do. I didn't
You
do
are
anything.
the big catalyst, Mataji. And all the devotees, of course. But
She enjoyed every bit. She enjoyed the ceremony. Yeah.
thanks to Mataji for your presence and all the devotees for viewing it and showering the blessings, Mataji. I think we really need that. I mean, each day, every moment is, I think it's just a blessing, Mataji.
Yeah,
I
that
was
is-
just wishing that I was there.
yes, Mataji. If we come to India, we'll definitely come to Pune to meet you.
Please do that. That will be my pleasure.
Yes.
All right. So should we take leave?
Hare
Oh, you
Krishna,
had a question? Go ahead. Panchara Mataji.
Mataji, like you say, mirror and dust, they cannot perform dharma, correct? When they are there,
It's covered by
Then-
yeah.
they buy it. But
Yeah.
when the fire is there and the smoke is there, we fan it, it can. How is this related to the human? You see that it is it in Rajogun or what it is, Mataji?
The fire is here compared to Sattvagun. Sattvagun mixed,
Sattvagun.
Sattvagun mixed with a little Rajas. It's mixed with a little Rajas. Smoke is the mixer. It's sort of like the dirt, but not exactly dirt, right? Less
Yeah.
intense than a dirt, but it is something that makes it impure. It's the impurity, I would say. It's the impurity in the fire, which prevents it prevents the fire from doing part of the fire service, right? It's not able to completely, subdue the fire. For that, you require water, but at least the light giving propensity is covered, right? But heat is still there, like that.
It is
So, yeah.
it can do its dharma.
Exactly. So what it is saying is that if you have, if two ways that you can see, equate the fire to be devotional service, right? And then lust is, he's saying that how lust covers, right? So lust can cover in the form of a smoke, which will prevent you from not completely doing your devotional service because of the lusty reason, right? I'm sitting down to chant. I'm supposed to sit down nicely and chant. I will get up and eat something and come back. You see, the desire is there to eat something. So now you stop doing your devotional service. You had to go and eat, and then you came back, and then continued your devotional service. So it's hampering the devotional service, right? Because of all these desires which are there. Or you came here and you had a desire somewhere, you wanted to do devotional service, you are surrendered to Krishna, but somewhere you had a desire to, be famous. And then after some time, you are just after your fame, you have completely forgotten that the most famous person is Krishna. And you start competing with Krishna, right? And when people start glorifying Krishna and they stop glorifying you, then you don't like it. Because now the focus is completely gone, right? So it can get covered. The lusty desires can prevent you from doing, part of it, can mess up with, or, put a spoke or an obstacle into it, right? But for the mirror and the dust, it is said that, the covering is so high, the desires are so strong that, you can't do what you're supposed to do. You will not do what you're supposed to do. So that is when the soul is in an animal body. You're supposed to do devotional service and you cannot do it. Right? And then the third one is like, you are in a tree form, complete prevention. At least in the body of a dog, at least in the body of a dog, of a body of an animal, Gajendra remembered the prayers at some point, right? Or at least, there are animals who perform devotional service, right? They will come, like we know of some snakes, etc., who come and offer things to Lord Shiva, and elephants also come and put flowers to the deities and things like that. So they might do a little bit, but not to that, to the fullest extent that they are supposed to do, right? And plant, completely helpless, stuck in one place. You have got a horrible job, you have got a family with so many kids, you have got old parents to take care of. Completely life is there, helpless, cannot do anything, cannot make even one single day to go to the temple, right? That's a helpless situation. Why? Because we had these desires, all these strong desires were there. I want to have a family, I want to take care of a family. Okay, I'll give you a family of 16 kids, now you take care of them, like that. So that's the levels in which the soul is covered by desires, and because of that, the spiritual knowledge also gets covered. Yeah. Meera Mataji. Yeah, you're welcome. Meera Mataji.
Oh, Priyanka Mataji has a hand up before me.
Oh, I don't see Priyanka's hand. Okay, let me look at the other thing.
It's okay, Mataji. Meera Mataji, you can go. Please go ahead. Yeah, I can go after you.
Okay, thanks. Once a plant is a plant, then what happens? How do they become humans again?
That's a good point. And the same can be asked of the animal also. Right? Animals also, right? So, right. And we know that, human beings will fall into the category of a cat or a dog or a plant, depending on certain activities, sinful activities that they do, right? And as part of the karmic reaction, they will fall into that category, right? And then when they reach that category, like if you're a cat, if a person becomes a lion or a cat and eats a rat, because the tendency of the soul is to eat meat, raw meat, like sushi. And so it's like, okay, I'll give you a suitable body, and you're not satiated. You want more and more and more of that. So, okay, let me give you a suitable body. You want to get, you like raw meat? Okay, I'll make you a cat. So as a cat, they will kill a rat, but they don't incur karmic reaction. Right? So then after that, when their desires are fulfilled, when the soul's desires are fulfilled, then in the next birth, they will take the body of an animal, of a human being. Now here also, it depends on, when you fall into the animal category, it depends on what we did and what level do you fall. Right? For example, there is also evolution, and about Darwin's theory of evolution was a little bit perverted. Our evolution, there Darwin was saying that, first there are monkeys and monkeys become men. And what we are saying is that no. What we are saying is that if a soul goes into the body of a monkey, then he can gradually be born into a higher and a more intelligent species of life, like that, right? So when they say that when the soul is in the body of a lion, right, then in the next birth, he's born as a Kshatriya. When he's in the body of a cow, then in the next janam, he's born as a Brahmin, like that, So the animal category, like that. You can also be, the soul can also be evolving through various species of life, right? You could become an insect, and then from insect graduate into another animal, depending on what all things we have done, for which we have to suffer those lives, right? Those kind of lives. And when all that karmic reactions are exhausted, you will again come back to wherever you were at the human level, right? So if you were a Kshatriya and you did something and you fell down into an animal, right, then you might evolve and then come to the lion stage and then become a Kshatriya, like that. So karma is a little complicated. It's not as straightforward as I've made it to be. There are so many other things also, right? Because in the animal species of life, there could be some of the karmic things could also get dissolved in the sense that, we killed somebody. Now they have to kill us. Okay, I become a rat, and then that person becomes a cat and kills me. Like that, so those calculations also happen. So that's why 417 says it's very abodhavyam.
So complicated.
Complicated, yeah. So leave it to Krishna to manage that. We just focus on devotional service.
Yeah, thank you.
Priyanka Mataji, sorry, I was not looking at my screen here.
No problem, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, I just have a reflection. I mean, today's class was really, really nice because I had heard this concept of like the three differences between the womb and the mirror and the dust. And I always thought that it's because fire, like smoke is lighter, and then and dust is then lighter than the womb. But when you said that, how fire doesn't loses its dharma, and mirror loses its dharma, it can be cleansed. But so I really like that. I mean, that clarity was not there with me, and today's class actually made it really, really clear. So thank you so much.
Thank you to the acharyas who are teaching us all this, to the lectures. And you were right in the thickness of the layer, thickness of the layers. For example, let's take this, and you might have an answer for me, that how can you cover a hand?
With a glove.
Okay, very good. And then tell me, what are the different types of gloves?
Yeah, there are like those transparent plastic ones, and then the rubber ones, and then those snow gloves, and so many like different gloves. So like in plastic transparent one, we can still see the hand, although it's not, we can't touch it directly. But then in the snow glove, you can't even feel your fingers. It's covered, yeah.
It's covered, right? So, so one thing that you were talking about from the covering perspective. So very brilliantly put, right? So you have the surgical gloves, the thin ones that come there, right? And you can see the fingers separately, right? And then if you go to the snow gloves, you said that they're all very thick on the finger. Now let's look at what is the dharma of the hand. Right? What is the hand supposed to do? And let us see how these gloves are going to cover the dharma of the hand. Right?
Yeah. So, yeah, and no, I think go ahead, please.
Yeah, tell me in a surgical glove.
Yeah, so I mean, with a surgical glove, we can still do
everything.
The work, right?
You can do everything. I mean, they perform complicated operations. They tie and so they're able to do everything. There's not much that is prevented, maybe for a few things, right, here and there.
Right.
Let's take, what was the other glove that you said?
So another one is like the rubber gloves with which we do the dishes and all.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, we are able to do, but it's not very comfortable. I mean, you can't do very precision, like the work with precision.
Can you thread a needle? With
no. Yeah. And then with the snow glove, I mean, I can't even feel a thing.
Yeah. Can you pick up a needle? With the snow glove, you can, right? And then what about the boxing gloves?
Oh yeah. Right.
Right. So you see how the dharma gets prevented.
Totally rajas.
Right, like that. Right. Unable to do anything. I'm helpless. I'm addicted. I have to do this. I have to have my alcohol. Totally helpless. Like that, That's the boxer's glove. Cannot do. Like a womb. What can the embryo do in the womb? Nothing. Right? It suffers so much in the womb. Cannot even tell the mom that, hey, stop eating those spicy food. They're harming me. They stay there. They suffer till their time is out to come out. Right?
Mataji, once you told, I mean, I read also, but I'm forgetting. Lust has 3 places to live.
It'll come.
That is the,
it'll come. Yeah, it'll come. It'll come. We won't break the suspense, but it's coming in this chapter. Yeah. Are the 3 places where the lust sits, right? Yeah. And then there are 3 gates to hell: lust, anger, and greed. Yeah, there are three of so many things. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? Okay, if there are no more questions, then we will call it a day here. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us here in the Zoom, and as well as those who are watching us here on Facebook. Vanchakalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha gaur premanande hari hari bol. So Krishna willing, we'll meet tomorrow at 6:30 in the morning. We'll continue our chanting from 15th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. Hare Krishna, have a good rest of the day.
Hare
And
Krishna.
Thank you so much.
remove your
Krishna.
gloves.
Hare Bol.
Krishna.